Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage tonight's Master of Ceremonies, Illinois State Representative Tom Morrison.
Well, welcome everyone to the Heartland Institute's 31st Annual Benefit Dinner and to the 54th Illinois House District. We're sitting in it, and I'm proud to represent our area down in Springfield. So thank you again for coming and welcome. Now this district we're in is actually one of the few out of 118. It's actually in the shape of a square. I didn't plan that. But I have some colleagues at my table over here down in the General Assembly who can attest that most of those other districts are pretty convoluted, pretty gerrymandered, so I lucked out. Now, your attendance here tonight helps to keep this effective, liberty-loving organization in a strong position to help equip and educate policymakers and shapers all across America, but particularly in our state legislatures. First of all, I'd like to give a round of applause to the Heartland staff who helped to organize this night. They deserve it. At my table, as I mentioned, I have a few colleagues. We represent sort of an informal conservative caucus down in Springfield. Many will say that Illinois is hopeless, but as a lover of history and as an admirer of Winston Churchill, I draw great inspiration from the great Prime Minister. I love his quotes, never, never, never give up. Yes. We have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. And if you ever visit my office down in Springfield or here in Palatine, you see a World War II poster I have in my office. It says of Churchill, and he's pointing and he's declaring to his countrymen, deserve victory. Now, this is no time to let others do the heavy lifting. We all have a role to play here to defend and expand liberty here in Illinois and around the country. There's no doubt we're in challenging times. For example, we have the ongoing battle with the ruling class, and we're going to hear more about that from our keynote speaker. We can and we must continue to support one another in this valiant cause for liberty. And with effort and God's blessing, we can win, and we are winning battles. We must continue to fight and win, not just for ourselves, but for future generations. There's a great quote from Ronald Reagan. Many of you have heard it. It's a little bit long, but every word just grabs you, and I'd like to read it to you. He said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-thought lessons of how they, in their lifetime, must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and children's children what it once was like in America when men were free." And my wife and I just had our third child. You know, someone has to repopulate Illinois. So we're trying to do our part there. But I do think about the kind of world that we're leaving to them. And if not more free, at least it's my duty as a parent to help to educate them and equip them so that they can lead their generation in the future. I gave you that Reagan quote. It's fitting tonight that we're going to honor one of Reagan's advisors, a great patriot, Dr. Ronald J. Devine, is with us tonight, and he's going to be receiving the Heartland Liberty Prize. I finished reading his book earlier today. Highly recommend it. By the way, with all the extra diapers and things like that, I have had to moonlight as a book cover model. So, any of you aspiring authors out there, now if your next tome is for the Conservative Book of the Month Club, then I'm your guy. If it's more of one of those torrid romance novels, then Charlie Kirk can volunteer there or pitch for that job. You know, the shirtless front cover, he'd be perfect for that. So what does Heartland excel at? Equipping us with the knowledge to influence and to lead. My first exposure to Heartland was when I was first running for this office. And I got educated by the Heartland staff on the school choice issue, and they were extremely helpful to me. I won my race running against a Republican incumbent in the primary, a darling of the public teachers unions, by the way. Since my election, I found that their monthly newspapers have been invaluable, and many of you already do get these. If you haven't, you need to sign up. They're outstanding. They cover the topics that are most pertinent to us as state legislators, especially here in Illinois. Environment and climate news, budget and tax news, school reform news, and healthcare news. And for those of us who are busy, and many of us have other jobs, part-time or full-time, it comes in just the kind of format that's quick and hard-hitting and gives us just the information we need. It's just perfect as a resource. If we need to go deeper on a topic, Heartland has on their website something called a policy bot. I've also found the staff to be very, very helpful if I need to go prepare for a bill or just go deeper on a topic. And as I said, even if you're not in elected office, you need to sign up for these materials. One thing I've become more and more convinced of is we as conservatives need to be better communicators of the message of freedom. Because if we don't present these issues and sides, our side, in a winsome manner, then the other side wins by default. It's really not too difficult either. And for those of you who are more interested in the topic, there's a great book that was issued in the 60s called Slightly to the Right. And it was written by a California state senator, a conservative named Bill Richardson. Not that Bill Richardson, the conservative one. Now the book is called Tea Party Talk. I preferred the earlier title, but basically it's this, is that the premise is most Americans are persuadable to our side if you present it in a winsome way. And usually all you have to do is just ask a couple of pointed questions. For example, the climate change issue right now. The left, the media, the school textbooks have done a masterful job of convincing most Americans that climate change is happening. Whether it is or not is debatable. But what I ask people is this. We learned in high school earth science class that there was an ice age thousands and thousands of years ago, prior to Henry Ford, prior to industrialization. How did those glaciers advance? How did they retreat before any of these things happen? And usually the feedback I get is, yeah, I never thought of it that way. And again, we have to be better at that, is asking those pointed questions. There's one more Heartland resource that I have become a huge fan of, and I wanted to share it with you. How many of you have an iPhone or a smartphone? Okay, so about half the audience. If you've not signed up for this yet, you need to sign up for Heartland's podcast. It's the daily podcast. It's what helps me to get through my long drives down to Springfield, or when I'm mowing the lawn, or just doing whatever. But every single day, a variety of topics come out, interviews, just great information, and it's in a very digestible form. I just want to play for you a quick sample.
This is the Heartland Daily Podcast.
Okay, there's the voice of Jim Lakely. There he is, okay. And what I love about this is, as I said, the great interviews and what have you. You can also
weekly
adjust the
Tax News
speed.
podcast. In New York City, the Big Apple, there's been a lot of talk about the effect of Uber, a transportation network company connecting drivers and riders.
As I said, very, very timely. And you can change the speed. So I know they're great on customer service. They've taken some of my suggestions in the past. So here's my suggestion. You got to come up with a name for these different speeds. So this is the normal version, right? Okay. Then you have the Milton Friedman mode.
Faster and more comfortably than the old way of hailing a taxi. But often there's been a little hard data to back up that talk.
Okay.
A new study from the Manhattan Institute.
And then for your liberal friends, here's the Al Gore mode.
Uber. And how the transportation network company...
So, something for everyone. Again, thank you for coming tonight and supporting this wonderful organization. I hope you have a great night. Enjoy the food and the fellowship.